So I was thinking about this one. Or another thing that we can work about is in the second lesson. It's a small thing, but I think it's very important in this. That is a scope is analogical, category is digital.
Correct.
And to expand this a little bit and to expand what is analogical and what is digital. That's it.
Does it make sense? I don't know.
Yes. So that's the point. I'm going to give you an example. One of the things I'm realizing is in elite sports, most of them, they are people or all or nothing, very digital people, because they need this kind of commitment. If we are speaking about elite sports, but this kind of behavior of all or nothing in some other areas is very limiting. Like for example, or they are in all full on energy state for the fight, or they are not. They don't know how to regulate it. And also, most important, when they see that they have done a mistake and they have to do an improvement, until the improvement is 100% good, there's not improvement.
Okay.
Do you know what? And do you know what is? And I have related this personally with the pattern of chronicity of
Searching for the evidence of the problem
in people who are all or nothing. So I want to.
But that's very digital. Do you think like people who are searching for the evidence of what they still have are very digital also?
Are very digital. This is the thing. They are digital. There are people that all or nothing. Or the change is fully implemented, or there has not been change at all, and they are still looking for the evidence of there is no change.
All right.
I'm going to give you an example. I'm working with a boxer, and his trainer, who is a very good trainer, is a all or nothing. He's a person, and he recognizes I'm all or nothing. And this boxer is making some change in part of his technique, in part of his way of boxing and his strategy, and he's improving, and his state is improving. But every time he has a feedback, it's like, this is a piece of shit, you have done nothing has changed. And the boxer says, but things are changing, and I can feel that things are changing. But my trainer says that it's all a piece of shit. And I realized that the trainer is a person of all or nothing. And I said to the boxer, look, until you have everything fully implemented, fully good, he's not going to see anything. He's going to see all the things that you have not done so far, all the things that you have not improved. So for him, you have not done anything. Okay. And that has been very useful for the boxer to understand this piece. And I realized the same with a lot of boxers in elite sports. They're all or nothing, which they need to be like that for committing doing the sacrifices that they have to do. But for these kind of things are very limiting.
Definitely, people who think in black and white or nothing are limited to two things. They are not limited to a variation of option. But I don't think it's something that is necessary for sports people. Like you're working with sports people more than I am, but from what I see in perspective, having this range is also very important for flexibility and understanding. Maybe as they grow older, their bodies are going to be different. And maybe as they are young, that they don't need maybe to use only their athleticism. They need to use a little bit of their brain. They need to lose a little bit of strategy, maybe because if they do that early on, they are able to extend their careers in a certain way. Because a lot of athletes, like in football and basketball, who are so much focusing on their athleticism, tend to have shorter careers sometimes because they burn themselves out as they are young, because that's their thing. Compared with others that are okay, that get it a bit earlier and start using other elements while keeping elements of their athleticism, that the combination elevates their game. Like what very vivid example of this is Michael Jordan when he stopped the first time and he retired and he went to baseball and he was
Yes.
training for baseball. His body became different.
Yeah.
So the year he came back, he wasn't as athletic as before, and because his body changed. Because in baseball you need to have, I think, stronger hands, and in basketball you need stronger legs.
Yeah.
But then the new physique that he had, he started think, okay, with his trainer, I think his name was Tim Grove. What I remember from the story is that he used how his body is right now and learned many new things that completely changed his game and got him to win the 3 next championships with the Chicago Bulls and made him the legend he is. So there is definitely usefulness in black and white thinking.
Yeah.
When like the life and death situations, like in when somebody wants to go for a KO in boxing, but definitely the analogical thinking is much more creates much more flexibility for people in many different places. So it's all contextual in the end.
It's all contextual, all contextual. In boxing, in elite sports, I think black and white is needed, but also inside of the sports, very limited in some aspects. And maybe I'm wrong, but I can see a correlation, no a cause and effect, but a correlation. Like there is any kind of connection between this white and black thinking and search and the pattern of chronicity of searching for evidence of the problem and not for the evidence of the change. Because this is the thing, these people, until they see that all the change, all the improvement in a technique has happened, they think nothing has happened.
Could be. I'm not sure.
Cool. I'm not sure, but this is one of the things. So how to work with this digital and analogical component, and how, for example, scope and category can be as well this kind of digital and analogical part of the work. For example, one of the things when athletes have a very black and white thinking, one of the things that I do is the arm relaxation exercise for tension and relaxation, because in this way they can start to learn that tension is analogical. It's not digital thing. It can be graduated, the level of tension, and it's very useful for them. So this is part of the idea that I got for the. Does it make sense?
But I think like what do we consider as digital? What do we consider as analogical? Like in IEMT, something that Andrew Austin explains. So when you ask somebody that has anger, for example, how strong is it on a scale of 1 to 10? And they say it's an 8. And you do eye movements and they go to a 6. From his perspective, the 6 is not a scope of 8. It's a different category.
Yes.
So it's not the same emotion. It's a different emotion.
Yes.
But he's using the SUD scale, which is the measurement scale of what's happening. So the person is able to assess the intensity of that experience. So it really depends. Like
I think, for example, this for me has been very useful in IEMT, and to be able to explain this, like the phobia response. One thing is a phobia response, one thing is
phobia
fear.
response is definitely a digital response. You either have the phobia or you don't have the phobia.
Exactly. And when you do the IEMT and they go from, for example, from 10 or 9 to a 6, and you explain to them, look, this is not the same emotion that you had before. Before that was a phobia response. This is not a phobia response. Could be disgust, could be fear, but it's not a phobic response. And for them, it's a eyes opening. It's like, so they understand this, and I think it's very useful to when we do this change of category, when we go in the scale of the IEMT.
Yeah, and another thing for categorization. So for a lot of us growing up or between friends or at work or whatever, we tend to feel something is unfair, for example. Let's say teenagers.
Yes.
Parents are telling them that they can't go out, for example. And they say, oh, it's unfair, blah, blah, blah. And they have this anger for them. So for them, it is really unfair in their model of the world, in how they're experiencing things, etc. From the parents, sometimes it's safety, sometimes it's whatever reason that's happening there. If the child comes and tells their parents this is unfair, the parent might say, okay, life is unfair, learn to deal with it. Here they acknowledge their experience and they put it in a category of this is not something you're experiencing on your own. In a parallel universe, same child, oh, this is unfair. Parent comes, this is not unfair. We love you. We want you to stay safe. So here there is a dismissal of the child's experience, recategorizing it of this is not about you, this is about us. And the child gets angrier. Or parallel universe, child comes, oh, this is unfair. This is not unfair. You just don't know what you want. That's gaslighting.
Yeah.
Which is, this is not what you're experiencing. You're experiencing something else.
Yeah.
And with every single form of communication and everything, like we're having a communication, it goes someplace. In coaching, there's a communication that goes someplace. And wherever there's a communication that goes someplace, there's always different elements going on. So what I'm giving to you, what you're giving to me, what I'm receiving from you, what you're receiving from me, and what's happening in the middle.
Yeah.
So there's the direction that this is going, the scope of things. Are we talking about the same things? Are we talking about different things? And that gets us back into scope and category, which is, are we in the same topic going and exploring, or are we talking about different topics that are subcategories of the same thing? Or are we talking about different topics completely, which have similar attributes that we consider are similar categories, but are completely different things?
Yeah, totally. And there is a lot of the arguments that I can think right now, both in family situations, like as a manager in the companies, a lot of arguments that people are speaking from different categories and from different scopes. And this is part of the conflict, that they when they speak about fairness, for example, they speak about totally different categories of what is fairness and totally different scopes of what is involved in fairness.
Fairness in the context of work is very different than fairness in the context of war.
Yes.
So that's puts you into a completely different thing. Fairness
Exactly.
for a child who's the one and only child, parents, is very, very different than a child who has 7 siblings, brothers and sisters, and he's the middle child or she's the middle child.
Yeah. Totally.
And we expect to go in the world getting everybody to understand our experience, getting them to treat us in a certain way based on our expectations, while we're speaking about completely different things. Now, there are things that are in common, which when we talk about metaphors, the containers that we are in, the blocks in our ways, the paths that we follow, the hurts that we get, that's general, because that's a very universal experience.
Yes.
But what do these metaphors represent and how we are interacting within that metaphor, which is the right brain's experience projected into mental space? That's a completely different things, because people have different skills, they have different, what do you call it? Patience, endurance, they have different curiosities, different IQs, etc.
Totally.
Like right now, everybody's going, oh, AI is going to steal the jobs. Oh, I wish we had AI that did the laundry but did not do my emails. Okay. But if you learn how to automate certain stuff, if you learn how to use AI to simplify your work, or maybe do some stuff that make you a little bit more income, doesn't have to be like the millionaire bullshit mindset that's everywhere. But by using AI, you can simplify your job, you can customize your job, you can do lots of things that are digitizing it, and you have more time for the other stuff, which really need human interaction and human intervention.
Yeah. This is it. Is how you categorize this one. AI. How do you categorize that? Is something evil, or is something problematic, or is something that is going to be useful for you?
But it is a digital.
Yes. 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 Yes, exactly. Because at the end, it's what it says in Six Flying Elephants. When you categorize, it's a digital thing. Or you put in as something useful, or something that is going to be a pain in your back and is going to remove your.
I tell you a secret.
Yeah.
Some things can be in more than one category at the same time.
Yes, as well. Yes.
Even in contradicting categories.
Yes, as well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because something could
Religion
be
creates
good in one
spirituality.
context. Yes. In one context, something can be good, and in another context could be bad.
Religion can create spirituality and connection for a lot of people. And it can create wars for a lot of other people.
Yeah, totally.
Same category, which is religion, no matter which religion.
One of the things working toward that, thinking about all of this thing about category and scope, and I was thinking about examples instead of for dynamics. I said, oh, I'm going to speak with Roni. I want to speak with Roni as well about one of the category, or one of these words that we use is used a lot in our context. Nick can love it. That is unconscious mind. What is a conscious mind for people? That is, and different people speak about the conscious mind and speak about different things totally. For some people, it's the body response. The body response about the emotional response as well about the things. It's part of the unconscious mind working. For some other people, it's something that is in your brain. That is, it makes you think some things against what is conscious. For other people, is the subconscious mind, that it has been the learning experience about all your life is stored in there. So all of these things, and how people speaks about the unconscious mind, and maybe they're speaking about totally different things. And what is a conscious mind? I was like, oh, there is a lot of explanations about this. It depends. So for some people, there is not such a thing as an unconscious mind. You know what I mean? And how we can play with all of this is very interesting.
Yeah. It's the terminology, like the categories we put things in, or the labels we put things
The
in.
labels.
So it could be the family of things, like cars. But it could be things that have similarities, things that move. Or if we go men with the letter that has names that start with the letter R. So it's very, very different categories.
They are the best people, no?
Definitely.
Oh. We have done a category there then.
Exactly. A category with status.
Yeah. So this is part of the interesting thing with the scope and category. When we work, for example, with conversational change, like in Provocative Change Works, how much of the work when we do reframing, for example, is a change of category. To when you blow up the frame that the person came with the problem, and the problem is not a problem anymore, what the person is experiencing is a change of category.
It's a change of scope.
And the scope in there.
Because if you have a frame and you blow it up, you open the frame.
Oh.
So you're making, what is this part of?
What is there?
What is this part of? So if you have something in the
Oh.
frame, you move the frame, it becomes part of a bigger whole.
All
So
right.
that's increasing the scope. That's not changing the category.
All right. This is this. All right. Perfect. 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 And for example, for yes, and when we go to universal in the big scheme of things, this is all a change of scope in that point of view.
It depends where.
What do you mean?
So if we have something and we blow up the frame, it becomes part of a bigger thing.
Yeah.
But that bigger thing could be a category itself. But if I'm talking in the frame of this problem, which is closed in this way, and I blow up the frame and it's part of I increase the scope of it, people have more room to move. Like when we do in metaphors of movement, a person is in a container. Let's say the container is a small room and there are no doors, everything, etc. Go up, and tell me what you notice. That's a change of scope. I am no longer limited by the rules that I was born in.
Yeah.
And if I'm no longer ruled by the rules that I was born in, or limited by the rules I was born in, I have bigger range of choice. I get bigger range of steps that I can take. I have bigger range of exploring what's right, exploring what's left, doing, etc., compared with being limited in something that is very close, that limits my vision, that limits what I can do that's right, that limits my options, etc., which is some things that we face in work, some things that we face in our decisions, some things that we face in the recurrent thing. Because the metaphors that have containers are things that we are limited in. So I cannot change my job. I cannot do this. I cannot leave this relationship that's horrible for me because, etc., etc. These are the rules that confine this person's experience. But by growing out of it, they have an expansive view.
Yeah.
In other times, when you have an obstruction in front of you, you have a wall and you're hitting the wall and you grow up, you're expanding your status. You're not expanding the way that you deal with what's around you, because there is scope to move. But the only way that you can take steps by growing up, if you grow up and there is no container, you're making the scope of things much, much less.
Yeah.
So, if, for example, if the wall in front of me, my boss, and I grow bigger, I see things with a diminished view. I have a problem with my boss. I see my boss as small. He's not important anymore, or she's not important anymore, which doesn't help in real life. I don't need to be bigger than the walls in my life. I need to know how to get around them.
Yeah. Totally.
This makes
So
sense.
yeah, totally. It doesn't have to. So basically, and this part of the thing, big part of the work that we will do when we do the stances in provocative change work, or when we do the metaphor of movements, we are changing the scope of the experience of the client
Or the category.
or the category.
So what we were talking about the other day. So if you ask somebody, what do you want? And they tell you, I have depression. Okay.
Yeah.
They answer the different category of things.
Mm.
Okay. And by not answering you, they are being divergent.
Yes.
So now you have two categories. You have somebody that is answering something outside of the category that you're talking about, and with a completely different scope. And you have somebody that's in the category of being divergent, which is they're not doing, they are complying but not obeying. So they are entertaining the conversation, but they are doing something different. So if somebody answers you different questions than you have, you need to be on the same place, or you need to pop that frame that they are in, because they are consistently in their own frame.
Yes.
So you might misunderstand the client here. So they will start defining their category more, which is like you're depressed, like is there something crushing you? You're like what's that like?
Yeah.
No, I'm depressed because I'm lost. I don't know what to do with my life. So now we know that depressed is the causative of being lost, and it's describing the not knowing how to make choices rather than having so much pressure.
Yeah.
Being depressed, metaphorically speaking, is being under pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Disclaimer, this is not psychological or therapeutic advice. If you want psychological or therapeutic advice, go to a professional psychologist and they can give you the proper diagnostic. This is linguistic definition for anybody watching this.
Good disclaimer. Yeah. This is the thing when we speak about the when some person comes, I am depressed, or I have depression, I am depressed, is to understand that this category of depressed in the experience of the client could be different things, could be a lot of things, and going into the metaphorical language, or for example, going through the stances of PCW, is try to find what the client means by depressed, because for a person can be like, as you say, metaphorically being under pressure, or being in a pit of despair, but for another person could be, I'm lost and I don't know where to go.
Exactly, because that's how they are labeling that specific experience. So how you label something is very different than how you define something.
Yeah.
And sometimes the labels people put on things have nothing to do with the experience that they're having.
Yes. Yes.
And in PCW, what we do by doing the stances and by challenging and by raising it up the flagpole and saying if they salute it and just saying it's not your fault, or we help them create definition.
Yeah.
And then, like one of the stances that Nick has introduced, it was recapping the session. So you said you are depressed and you feel that you are lost, and what's wrong with that? That could shrink the frame, or that could increase the frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem with stuff like the meta model, for example, that is taught in NLP and lots of people use it, when people ask the questions, they don't know how to directionalize it.
Yes.
Compared with PCW, for example, once people understand it, if you throw something out to the person and they give you an answer, you directionalize it by introducing another aspect or another category, or expanding the scope of things. Because not a lot of people understand the difference between expanding stuff or going to a completely different thing.
Yeah.
So when Nick goes, yeah, it's all about salmons. You know, the fish that are in Norway or in Japan. No, the salmons, the basketball family in the States. So it creates like a shift in the person's, what is what on earth is he talking about?
Yeah. Totally. Perfect. So this is part of the things that I'm very interested to understand, all this kind of switch of change in scope and category, because if we are able to understand this, or work with stances, PCW, with metaphor movements, and with IEMT, we understand a lot more what is going on in the experience of the client.
One very silly thing that can be introduced. People don't need to overcomplicate things. Like what we're discussing right now is a bit advanced, because we're reading stuff, we're analyzing stuff, we're using our reference stuff. But people who do IEMT, for example, they get a memory that somebody's saying, okay, so focus on this memory. Okay, keep thinking of this memory, keep thinking of this memory. Okay, now keep thinking of that memory, keep thinking of that memory. I just changed category. Went from this to that.
Yeah.
So I am throwing small things out there to help the person shift the categorization actually of stuff without them noticing. Or in NLP. Let's put this here on for a moment and talk about this. That's submodality categorization of stuff.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And also scope, because it could be something big. And let's put this here for a second. In social panoramas, for example, if you have your inner circle, it's very close to the people that are close to you, etc., etc. And then you have your bigger circle and your bigger circle. That's how people organize the relationships according to social panorama. So stores, etc., etc. Move somebody out there, you're changing both category and scope.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Does it make sense?
Doesn't have to. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
I think that we've covered a lot for today.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I hope
Perfect.
you enjoyed
Yes.
it.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
See you
Ciao.
next.
See you.